Stories are how we connect, inspire, and persuade. And if you want to captivate your audience, close deals, and build a memorable brand, you need to master the art of storytelling. In this video, we're going to cover what makes a story unforgettable, how you can use storytelling to connect with your audience and drive results in your business. If we haven't met before, my name's Eileen Wilder, and I've used storytelling to grow my business into the multiple millions. And in this video, I'm going to break down how you can too. We're going to dive into exactly how to tell stories so you can persuade, connect, and drive sales. Let's go. A couple short years ago, I was broke as a joke and ready to choke. And I was trying to figure out how to grow my business and become financially free. So if you're watching this video and you're new in business, or you've already got an established business, this is going to help you grow your revenue very quickly. How do I know? Once I learned how to master storytelling using a simple 5-step framework, I started selling stuff like crazy, like high ticket stuff, low ticket stuff. I started crushing on video, ads, events, no matter what it was, the story started converting things into sales. Now, what I also discovered is that most people are terrible at telling stories. So should be very encouraging to you. Most people are more amateurs at public speaking, talking on video, and on events. So if you do what it is that I'm going to show you in this video, you're immediately going to switch into becoming a pro. Now, pro speakers speak in a certain type of pattern, a certain type of framework. And the pattern is designed to tell emotionally charged stories. One thing that you'll notice is amateurs are often over teaching. They're stating their points, they're being very tactical, and it moves people into the logical centers of the brain. I'll dive into this in just a second. But pros are very emotional in their storytelling. In fact, a Stanford study showed that stories are 22% more likely to be remembered if they're told with an emotional storytelling. So in this video, we are answer the question, like, how do you tell stories that drive like emotions? How do you tell stories that make the audience feel like buying? Well, great news. There's actually a structure, a pattern, and a framework, and I found it. Now, you may be asking yourself, Eileen, how did you find it? And I know, I would ask myself that too. I started studying over 300 hours of the best speakers all over YouTube. I started studying the greats like Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Dan Kennedy. I started studying marketers who sold from stage and how they used emotional, feeling-based stories to cause table rushes and sales. Because while storytelling's awesome, and I'm pro like tell great stories, isn't it cooler if you could tell stories that also grow your business, right? And that's what I needed, because why? I was in a small 2-bedroom apartment. My husband was driving Uber. I couldn't just sit out there and tell stories. I had to sit out there and tell stories that would drive sales. So type sales in the comment below if you're like me and you're an entrepreneur, or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you're a stay-at-home mom like I was, or you're driving Uber, or you're an 8-figure entrepreneur. Type sales down below if you want to have storytelling that causes conversion. Here is what I found. Inside the videos that I studied, the pros didn't overteach. The pros did this. Watch. I'm going to teach you through contrast. Amateurs will start their stories like this. They'll say, I was in a 2-bedroom apartment. I was struggling financially. I didn't know what to do. And then they'll start going deep into like, and then my grandma got ran over by a reindeer. And then my dog ate the thing. And okay, now pause. What was the word that I just used a lot? I used the word I, or entrepreneurs or new speakers will use the word me. So you'll hear this word, I, me. Pros, in contrast, tell the story like this. They'll shift from I to you very quickly. I was in a 2-bedroom apartment just a few years ago. I was struggling financially. My husband was Uber driving to support our family. Have you ever been in a situation where you thought that you'd be further than you are right now? And you look at other people growing their business, being very successful, buying cars, going on vacation, owning nice homes, and you ask yourself, like, how do I get that result? I mean, I'm looking at my bills, and has this happened to you where you see your bills piling up month after month? You're even going deeper into debt. You're struggling, you're trapped, you're strapped, you're arguing with your spouse. Can you relate? Pause. Can you feel the difference? I was telling the same story, but using the word you and translating my feelings into you language. When the pros do this and when you do this, your audience will immediately shift into thinking about themselves. They're hearing your feelings, but stating it through the lens of their life. It's a lot like if you've ever been to a movie where you go into a movie theater and you sit there, but after a while you forget you're in the movie theater and you feel like you're in the movie. That's what happens when pros switch from I to you. The audience starts going internal. And more importantly, they start feeling the feelings. Now, don't underestimate the power of this, because what I'm about to show you next is how you can get them to believe and adopt a belief that they need to have in order to buy your stuff. What do you mean? Well, the pattern and the framework goes like this. It goes I to you to point. I, you, point. And the point is a belief that you want your audience to adopt. Now, amateurs will tell the point like this. Amateurs, let's say the point of my story is, like, I went to a conference and I found out funnels are awesome. Amateurs will just state the point. They'll tell the audience. They'll say it like this. They'll say, you need a funnel. They'll tell the audience what to do. And you know what happens? The audience's brain, due to studies that super smarty pants people found out, demonstrates psychological reactance. What does that mean? When we're told what to do, we immediately go, I'm 100% not doing that. I'm definitely not doing that. We don't like to be told what to do. So what do the pros do? The pros weave their point, or the belief they want the audience to adopt. In this example, funnels are awesome. They weave the point into the story. So what happens is the belief, the point, gets into the subconscious mind of the listeners. Let me give you an example. So I'm going from I to you. Have you ever been this place? And I'll go back to I. So I went to a conference and I heard a guest speaker talk about how funnels were different than websites. In fact, he said websites were really confusing and no people make money off of websites, but funnels drive people towards one button, one call to action, and funnels are like websites, but they make money. And in fact, you can have ads driving to your funnel, and it's like printing money. And that's when I realized, wow, funnels are awesome. Pause. So that was my point, and now my audience is developing and adopting that belief. They're like, yes, funnels are awesome. But if I told them, you need a funnel, they'd be like, I do not need a funnel. In fact, I unsubscribe, okay? So I, you, point. Okay, that's 3 parts of the framework. Now, the last 2 steps to crush speaking on stage, converting sales, building your brand, and driving results in your business is something called a 1-2 punch. So there's a 1-2 punch at the end of the framework. And when you do these last 2 steps, so first you're going I, you, point. When you do these last 2 steps, what's going to happen is your audience is going to start to get very excited to the point of being visually excited with their face, very excited and having buyer's momentum, very excited even to the point of getting almost emotional about why they didn't believe this before. And then you're going to end the pattern or the speaking structure with something called a soundbite. So let me dive deeper. The 1-2 punch at the end of the pattern is having a they and then a soundbite. What do I mean? You're going to develop an enemy inside of your stories, inside of your videos, stage speeches, webinars. Anytime you open your mouth, have an enemy. Why? A man named James Fahey said this quote. He said, nothing unites a people more than having a common enemy. Can you think back to moments in your nation's history where this was true? Nothing unites a people more than having a common enemy. How many of you have seen political parties? They use this all the time. In fact, in every email, every speech, they start with the they. Now, if you can imagine you building an enemy, could be, I'll give you some examples in a second, but if you have a they, and then you start putting words in the enemy's mouth, can you feel how the audience would start to get united and start to be like, oh no, they didn't, not today. They start to get emotional about it, and then they'll start to almost get angry that there's this enemy attacking them, holding them back. And so it causes a huge emotional surge in the audience. In fact, many of our clients, and you'll find this too, there'll be loud applause, there'll be standing ovation. And if you do it well, you'll get people rushing to the table because they want to defeat the enemy. Are you tracking? So you have a they, okay? You put words in the enemy's mouth, go they, and then There's a soundbite. The soundbite is like a one-liner that causes the audience to go, oh! And here's the best tips for sound bites. They typically rhyme or have alliteration. It's like a huge power moment in the speech. Have you ever been listening to a speaker and the audience reacted very strong, or you wrote it down? They were using a sound bite. And from my studies, the best sound bites sound musical. So the reason why alliteration, rhyming works really well for sound bites is because it adds to the musicality. Let me give you an example of a sound bite. A sound bite that I've used on some of my keynote speeches is, procrastination is the assassination of your destination. Do you hear that? That rhyming, okay? So as you finish your story, land a sound bite and the audience will go crazy. Now, let me give you just some examples of enemies that you could have. Think of something or a people or a group. Now, I'm not asking you to name names of specific people here. What I'm talking about here is great enemies could be the media or the system, the man. Corporate will tell you this, banks will tell you that, venture capitalists will tell you this, but you could have an enemy. Something that would be the antithesis of what you're trying to teach or what you're trying to do. For me, I often actually talk about the enemy in your mind. So I'll create an enemy and I'll say, there's an enemy. Have you ever heard a voice like this or like this? Did you know that you have an enemy in your own mind? So that you see, I'm creating an enemy and then I put words in the enemy's mouth. The enemy will tell you thoughts like, and then I start listing out things like this. So when I do this, and when you do this, the audience starts uniting, the audience starts getting very emotional, and then you could ask a question like, how many of you are tired of hearing that? Da, da, da. This is where the audience starts to get really heated, and then you land a soundbite, it's like, game over. Okay, so this is what I call the belief and identity transformation system. This is called the BITS framework. This is how I tell story. This is how my clients tell stories. And this is how you can tell stories, not only to be an amazing speaker every time you open your mouth, but how you can drive sales, how you can drive results in your business, and more importantly, how you can touch the hearts of your audience, whether they buy or whether they don't buy. So if this video resonated with you and you want to go a little deeper in your own speaking and storytelling ability, go ahead and click the link down in the description below where my team has some resources that can serve you and your business. Hey, I want to say thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.